Is Marathon in a death spiral right now? Is it because of the gap between sweats and casuals? Is it because gold tier trios are farming blue tier players for content and people are just quitting before they can ever get into a fair fight? Maybe. But with everything happening around Marathon, Bungie, Destiny 2, gaming in general, I wanted to make a little video of what I think Marathon and Bungie's survival plan should look like going forward. Kind of what I would do if I was the game director and where I would focus. Because unlike a lot of people, I don't think that this game is going to be canceled after season 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I know everybody likes to move the goalposts, and they said the game was going to be dead on arrival and dead within a week and dead within a month and dead within the first season. And yes, I can say that the player count is low. I get that. Season 2, I think, really dropped the ball in terms of progression and stuff like that. And I think that really hurt the game. But again, with everything that's happened with Destiny 2, Marathon being the sole focus of the studio right now, and Sony constantly saying that they want this game to do well, I can foresee a lot of changes with Marathon. And honestly, Marathon's had a first chance, a second chance, a third chance, and a fourth chance at making a good impression. And in this day and age, that's way more than what you normally get. But I still think that there's time for Marathon to turn into something special. Not that it already isn't. I love Marathon, to be completely honest. And I don't want people to have knee-jerk reactions to what I'm saying and being like, oh, you're ruining the game, or you hate the game, or you're turning it into every other game. That's not the purpose of this video. Although, I would love to hear your comments about what I think and what you think down below. And if you enjoy Marathon content, make sure you subscribe. I could be your second favorite Marathon YouTuber. Listen to Bingus. Okay, by the second week of Season 2, the, average to above average Marathon player was able to accumulate wealth that was on par with the end of Season 1. With those sweats and streamers and YouTubers just being extremely rich off of loot, just doing Night March. So what was 3 months of progression got compressed into 7 to 14 days. And Bungie clearly did not plan for that. And they admitted that it was a mix of bugs and guaranteed high tier loot and sponsored kits unlocking earlier than intended and rare drop issues. So fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, on June 16th, Bungie hit the brakes, Cradle XP got nerfed, boosted containers got switched off, I think entirely, and prestige drops, and overall loot quality took a cut. So the problem is that fix landed and hit everyone at once, regardless of where they were playing. So those players who logged in during that first week and cashed out on all that surplus and loot were fine, but players who log in now have hit a wall that wasn't really there at the beginning of the season. And I think that had a negative effect overall on the game. I think a lot of players looked at it and said, I don't even want to grind it out to just be able to get level with these players that have already got all this great loot. I don't want to go in with blue shields and get absolutely mollywopped. I'll go play something else and I'll wait until the next season's wipe. But the thing is if those players are logging out, there's a higher chance that they're just not going to log back in. Enough time is going to go by and they're just going to be like, I don't want to boot up the game. And that's where some of my suggestions later on in the video keep people on the game, because I think that's very important. I know a lot of people who love Marathon, who love the world and the aesthetic and all that stuff, and sometimes they just get burnt out of the extraction loop, but they still want to partake in the game. But more on that in a second. A solution that I would like to incorporate into the game full-time is a gear-capped playlist. We've had sponsored kit-only playlists and gear floor playlists, but I think something like a blue tier ceiling playlist would be a lot of fun. I think that honestly changes almost everything about how a casual player can experience Marathon, especially in their first 20 hours or so. If you're a new player, you get to learn movement and loot routes and the map and actually fight people on similar footing instead of just being farmed by a trio with weapons that are just tiers above them and gold shields. And honestly, I think with the new PvE mode coming, Vault Breaker, that Bungie is already kind of testing that. It's going to restrict what you bring in, what you can take out. They don't want the high tier loot to flood the pools of the regular game modes and playlists. People will be able to jump into cryo who may have never there are so many people who don't even load into cryo just because they're like scared that they are just going to get wiped before they can learn the map and the routes and all that stuff. So I think that that's smart. Hopefully that means that more people, once they get comfortable with cryo, with Vault Breaker, will hop into the regular mode. But really, I think if you apply that same logic to PvP, you get that same, on-ramping system. But the problem is that you're going to split the population into capped and uncapped playlists, and then you fragment the queue, and there's longer matchmaking times, and especially during off-peak hours. But hopefully, this would see an influx of players as well. So it's kind of a trade-off. And you would hope that as time goes on, more and more people are hopping onto the game using this and then going into the regular playlist. I think a gear cap fixes the new player experience, and I think overall it could be very healthy for the game. I could also see it becoming the most popular playlist, to be completely honest. All right, here's one that will make people really upset, I think, and that is some type of secure container or pouch where, just one slot, you get to pick whether it's, a sniper rifle or your shield or a backpack or whatever. If you die, it's going to survive. You get to keep it. And I know this is a double-edged sword because it's like, if you're the person that killed that guy and you go up to loot their stuff and you're like, where's the, gold vault thrower? Oh, they must have kept it in their container or whatever. I get that. I also think that there should be like a cap, similar to how there's like a trace cap on weapons, after they've been looted like 5 times, they just kind of blow up. So I think you should only be able to keep something 3 deaths. But I think it also helps because a player who dies and they get to keep that one rare item or their one favorite item gets to walk away from a match feeling like it wasn't just wasted, like that run was not just for nothing. Because right now, dying in Marathon means losing everything, whatever you brought in, whatever you picked up. And I think that all or nothing structure is why Bungie is trying to bring in Vault Breaker as well, because it's a lower risk mode in the first place. And why you can't take out the high tier loot, what you're going to get is the currency for that game mode to buy other loot and take it into other playlists. Now, the philosophy behind all this also has to be taken into account because the downside of having a secure container type of safety net is that it kind of eliminates the tension that makes extraction shooters so tense in the first place. If you remove enough of the loss and you remove the reason, people get nervous and tense when they're in a fight, you lose that special sauce that makes extraction shooters tick. I know Tarkov gets criticized for having one, but I think, again, if we're helping a casual audience, and casual is not meant to be derogatory, it just means like the normal average gamer. I think having a secure container with a cap of how many times it can be saved after you die is a good middle ground. All right, here's another little solution I have that I'm sure people are going to get really mad about, and it's definitely not the first time that anybody suggested this. But a pure PvE and pure PvP game mode, I think, would help immensely. Vault Breaker is already coming and covers half of this. Pure PvE, there's no runners or rooks, it's just you and those vaults. But what's missing is the opposite end, a pure PvP mode with none of the extraction stuff attached. Just a respawn-based, arena style, if you want to call it that, kind of mode where dying is going to cost you nothing but a few seconds and then you're back in and fighting. And I think Bungie has already floated this idea around, commenting about it, saying a more purely PvP-focused experiment could follow Vault Breaker into the game. And again, one of the cons of this is that you split the player base again. So then you would have extraction and PvE only, PvP only, ranked and stuff like that. Like you're splitting it up and you're diluting the player base, and it's already been a shrinking population. But again, all of this is to try to get more people on the game. I know a ton of people who just want to chill out. I talked about it before, like with the PvE stuff in Vault Breaker. They want to play the game, but they don't want to do the extraction side of stuff. They just want to hop in and everything. I think a lot of people want to partake in Marathon's game and world, and I think this is a way to do it. I absolutely could see Marathon being a Destiny Lite type of game, a more cost-effective Destiny, or even a Halo-like experience. You know, Halo has firefight and campaign stuff and ranked and big team battle, and I just feel like Marathon could absolutely move into that space as well and keep the extraction side of things, and I think that it's important that it does. I could see the game even being like free to play for some of the playlists, like the PvE only or PvP only playlists, you know, being free to play, but then the extraction side of things still costs, you know, money, so it kind of helps filter out cheaters and stuff like that. Again, I know what I'm asking for. I understand that it can be problematic, especially in the beginning, but I think that Bungie is like at a fork in the road right now, and if you cater to the top 1% of this game, you're going to watch it shrink even more and eventually die out within a year. Or do you work on protecting a 90% of the population who just want to, you know, fight PvE stuff or just a respawn mode or just going into an extraction playlist that they can occasionally win? To me, again, I really enjoy the game. I want to see it last. If that means sacrificing a couple of the aspects of Marathon that I love to get people on the game, to keep it going, to increase that player base and stuff, I'm all for, because I'm a rational human being. But Bungie has to choose, you know, what trade-offs that they can live with and what the game can live with. Because if they don't do anything, I think, you know, staying neutral or just keeping the course as is detrimental to the game as well. But drop your fixes and suggestions in the comments down below. I'm lucky enough to have access to a couple of people at Marathon where I can provide feedback. So maybe if your suggestion is good and you actually like have a thought out response and it's not just like, you're an idiot, maybe I can slide that along. I actually believe that Marathon is listening, you know, the director and the devs and stuff, the studio is listening to what people want from Marathon, because no doubt they want it to succeed, especially right now with all the uncertainty around Bungie and jobs and stuff like that. So do it down below. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Leave a dislike if you hate me. Hype the video up on mobile. Subscribe. And I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.